All right, welcome back to Eliminate the Gap. We are so excited, Delmar and I, to be joined by the Center for Leadership Development, their team, Dennis Bland and Melanie, who was instrumental in developing and continuing grant dollars flowing through the organization. We're excited to have them as part of this most recent podcast. Dennis, I mentioned that you are the president of the Center for Leadership Development. One of the things that Delmar and I have been impressed by in preparing for this interview is the focus on those 5 principles. And while some people might read them and think, oh, okay, that makes logical sense, it's never that simple, is it? Can you tell everybody a little bit about the Center for Leadership Development, but specifically about those 5 principles and why they're so important?
Sure, I'd be honored to. But first, Erica and Delmar, thank you all so very much for having us on. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to introduce the Center for Leadership Development to your audience. The Center for Leadership Development was founded in 1977 with the mission of establishing a pipeline of African American youth who would one day progress into business, professional, and community leaders. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about those individuals who had a vision, a big vision, over 40 years ago to say, how do you cultivate a pipeline? It does not happen automatically. And how do you cultivate a pipeline where young people are really thinking about aspirational goals and ambitions? Doctors, teachers, professionals, entrepreneurs. And so the organization, those founders had that vision since 1977. And we started with 1 program, and now the organization offers 17 programs in a college prep institute. But then to your specific question, the entire emphasis of the Center for Leadership Development is a holistic values-based model. So our entire youth development thrust is founded upon the foundational principle that whether you live in Los Angeles or New York or Virginia or Indianapolis or Washington or in Africa or Asia, humans tend to live a value system. And which means we tend to invest our most precious resources in those areas that are dearest to us, or that have the most importance to us, that have the most significance to us. At the Center for Leadership Development, the leaders have said, well, since humans tend to work that way, what would happen if you were able to develop a program where you were able to get young people to focus on and invest their energies, time, effort, concentration, eyes, ears, bodies, if they were able to invest those endowments in 5 areas: character development, educational excellence, leadership effectiveness, community service, and career achievement. What would happen if you're able to introduce young people to these values, get them to actually explore them and dig deep into them, and then by exploring and digging deep into them, if you're able to get these young people to actually grow or develop or climb up in them. So as we like to say, step in, climb up, and stand out. We said, what would happen to young people if they actually began to adopt not one, but each of those 5 values? We said, we think we have the opportunity to then cultivate some of the most outstanding, dynamic, and purposeful young people in the world for making contribution to the local community and making contribution throughout society.
Cool. I really love that. I wrote that down. Step in, climb up, and step out. I like that. I might use that this coming school year, But you're unique. You are almost a unicorn in the fact that you actually went through the program yourself, and now here you are. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience and what just worked for you and the impact this has had on your life?
A unicorn. And yes, Delmar, you can have that. Absolutely. Gift of the Center for Leadership Development. And I don't know, man, but I'll tell you, just based upon your background, Delmar, it's inspirational to me. There is something about tapping into young people when they don't understand how much tremendous potential they have. My experience was being able to be surrounded by individuals who, as the expression goes, saw more in you than you saw in yourself. And that's the way it should be when there are adults in the rooms with young people. But those individuals, my experience, were individuals who were professionals who were taking time to actually pull me up or pull us up into our potential or in the actualization of our potential, pull us up into the discovery of what we can do and what we could be, and then actually shepherding us along the way. That was my experience. But then as I grew older, what I began to appreciate even more was the value of that investment that they were making and the value of the sacrifice that would even enable me to discover that talent and that potential. So it was having the experience and learning from it, and then growing up and realizing just how valuable that sacrifice was and how much it contributed to my success and purposeful living. And so then I just felt like it was incumbent upon me to turn thanks by coming back to the organization and trying to provide that same type of shepherding, gifting, tutelage, and coaching to a lot of other young people to help them discover and actualize their potential.
Awesome. Awesome. I know the feeling. Not everybody knows this, but I'm actually teaching in the county that I grew up in. So I understand that sentiment oh so well, man. So thank you for that. And just kind of building on that, can you talk a little bit about it has to come together with the education and the programming. Can you talk a little bit about partnering with schools and how that works for you guys?
Sure. We understand that young people, by and large, and minors, by and large, they don't drive themselves to places. At least they shouldn't be. We need adults involved, and so the organization understood early on, the founders, that if ever going to be success, there had to be intentionality around what we wanted to teach in an after-school environment, help educators and families understand the relevancy of what we would be teaching outside of school. And then with that, could you get those community stakeholders to make investments? Parents, can you drive them? Schools, will you refer students? So they just understood that it would be a collaborative effort if we were going to work. But those community stakeholders also understood the value of creating strategic alignment. And that strategic alignment was essentially saying, the teacher wants the young person to be successful, and this is the role of the school to do that. The Center for Leadership Development wants the young people to be successful, and there is this unique opportunity to cultivate young people outside of school, and specifically in the area of education and character formation, so that they actually approach school, viewing the school enterprise through an entirely different prism. I see school differently. I'm understanding education differently. First, I was going through the education process, but having a chance to go through the Center for Leadership Development, I'm getting a fundamental understanding of what education is. I'm starting to understand it as currency. I'm starting to understand its exchange value. I'm starting to understand its efficacy in the marketplace. I'm understanding what a marketplace is and how people are exchanging education and talent. That's causing me to approach education differently. It's causing me to approach my teachers differently. So we want the students, they begin to approach education differently because of what they're understanding in the school, but what they're also understanding outside of the school that prepares them to walk into that school building and approach the environment differently.
You know, it's interesting, Dennis. Delmar and I have been reflecting recently that some of the most successful or longest lasting organizations that have been, working locally always seem to have a good, healthy relationship with the school system. And that is not a commonplace among after-school providers and in youth development in general. There's generally been a tension between youth development and what we do in after school versus what happens during the school day. And we continue to find, and I'm not surprised that you all have this kind of healthy relationship with, the schools. And you have to in order to have a holistic kind of approach. So, want to just at least underscore the fact that doesn't seem to be typical in lots of ways. One of the other kind of key components to, again, the holistic side of working with young people is the parents, the caregivers, and how an organization works and continues to basically bring in the whole family, if you will, in ensuring that the young person continues on a path forward. How have you all kind of been able to do that and help others out here listening, maybe get some words of wisdom on how to do that?
I think so much about, first of all, our entire approach is a 2-generation approach. So that's actually built into our program design. So as you go through our list of program options, you'll see a number of those programs actually have parent components. When we do guidance counseling in the evening and Saturdays, we're counseling not just the students, but counseling the parents. And so a lot of our approach begins with saying we need the parent involved because we understand the power of parenting and helping young people succeed. And we understand how much more challenging it is for a young person to succeed when there is not a parent or a caring adult. There are already a number of obstacles. We don't want to add to the obstacles. We want to find as many assets as we can, and that starts with parents. But then it's also a matter of educating parents by just creating some type of consciousness raising. And that is just trying to help parents understand that even though it may be a struggle, even though it may be difficult to make these types of investments, let us help you understand the portent if there is not that potential, if there is not that parental engagement. Let us help you understand what the ramifications are when parents are disengaged. And let us help you understand not just what that means today for your 14-year-old, but what that may implicate for your 24-year-old if the parent is not involved. And so oftentimes it's just, and then helping them understand how much the insight actually helps them in being able to be advocates for them to be strong parents in their parenting role. So when we have these conversations, we've had parents say, you know what, this is for young people. I didn't understand why you would require this for the parents, but going through the program, oh my goodness, this has been so very helpful. I would not have asked for this because I didn't know that this was something that I needed. So now that I'm actually experiencing it, I'm understanding why you required parents. And now I am so thankful. I feel so much more prepared and ready to help my son and daughter succeed.
Awesome. Hey, well, building off of that, I want to just kind of touch on the fact that you guys are really, invested in the Black community, and the Black community over the last year has had so much, going on, from George Floyd to just the youth empowerment in young people just in general, but especially in the Black community. Can you talk a little bit about how you've been able to utilize that in your approach, or adjusted your approach at all?
Delmar, that's a great question. And just the reality of the last year and 16 months has just caused us to be soberly reflective. I said during that whole period that it's caused me to, as Dr. Martin Luther King said while in the Birmingham jail, it's caused me to think long thoughts, dream long dreams, and pray long prayers. So it's been a reflective moment for me. In the final analysis, though, what it has said to me is that it's incumbent upon organizations like the Center for Leadership Development to be about its business of being excellent in the preparation and cultivation of African American youth. If there is this concern about justice, if there's this concern about empowerment, then there has to be this concomitant willingness to invest and sacrifice to make sure young people are prepared I mean, excellently prepared to take advantage of opportunities as they come to the fore. And Martin Luther King said presciently during his lifetime, he said, doors are opening like never before. Now, all this is relative, but they were talking about just being able the opportunity to go into an integrated school. He said, doors are opening like never before. And yet his warning was, then we must be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities as the door opens. And so the situations of the past year and beyond has reminded me of Center for Leadership Development's responsibility to make sure that we are excellent in getting young people ready in advance or ahead of time, so that when opportunities present themselves, you can perform. So you'll see, if you go down our list of programs, you oftentimes see the word preparation, college prep, success prep, college prep institute. It's literally saying, we don't show up at the Olympics to perform or to go to work, or you never make it to the Olympics. You're spending years outside of people's sight. You're working, you're investing, you're sacrificing, you're regimented. And that's the work that the Center for Leadership Development is doing with young people, so that when they actually go into these opportunities in the colleges and in the corporations as interns, you can tell that they have been prepared, and then they're ready to seize the opportunities that have been made available to them because they have been nurtured and cultivated by organizations like the Center for Leadership Development. And I'll just say, we have discovered that in the realm of athletics, on the football field, on the basketball court, and we say, you can be multifaceted. Don't shut it off once you get into Delmar's classroom. We're expecting the same type of commitment to excellence. You ran a 4.8 and you're still disappointed because you want a 4.4. We want that same type of commitment and dedication in the academic realm and in the career realm and in the higher education realm. And so it's the high expectation, it's the big vision, and it really is just making sure that if we really want to take advantage of this environment that we're in, how well are you cultivating young people to seize opportunities as they become available? That's our role.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually this allows us to kind of segue into the MBA Foundation. And so it's interesting kind of merging of time, right? The foundation started about a year ago and focused predominantly, if not exclusively, on Black economic empowerment or economic empowerment in the Black community. And so you all have recently received a grant. I think you were one of the second grant class. Melanie, can you tell us a little bit about how you got connected to go after that grant, and then how maybe that money might continue to further CLD's work?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Certainly it's a privilege to work at Center for Leadership Development. Dennis mentioned, those that have gone through our programs, and one such gentleman, Corey Wilson with the Pacers Foundation. We have been talking about some matters and how getting him more involved. And he revealed to me that him along with his colleagues have been working on this opportunity, but stay tuned. And so when that opportunity presented himself, it was just overwhelming and just above and beyond what we could have anticipated. And so he was really the one who spearheaded and really put forward the Center for Leadership Development, because he is an alum of the program. He and his wife, I believe. And so they support us and generously. The Pacers have been supporting us in many different ways for many years. And so it was certainly an honor for them to recognize us, our work in the community, and really put their name, their stamp on the Center for Leadership Development. And so really it was him that opened the door. we had a conversation with the new incumbent executive director, and he spoke very highly of us. And then that opened the door for the grant opportunity. And we put our best foot forward. We shared the draft with him. Just he walked us through the entire process, and then we were awarded. The NBA Foundation is remarkable in their work. Not only do they help us move our mission here locally, but they provide generous exposure nationally, which is huge for the organization, because that's part of our vision, to be nationally recognized, and hopefully one day bring the program on a national front. But really, the grant is going to help us really move the mission with our CLD alumni and offer them internship opportunities, either those that are in post-secondary credential or college, to be able to put the things that they're learning to use and also be paid for it. And so we've been very diligent in putting that program together, and just are excited about the outcome. I believe our goal at the end of the grant is to serve at least 40 students and have them go through the internship program. So we're just really thrilled to be in the second cohort. Very grateful to the Pacers and for Corey Wilson for just really putting us forward. So thank you. We're very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to Greg Taylor, who became the first executive director of the NBA Foundation, worked with us back in the time I was describing earlier, in our early days of youth development. So we've known Greg for a long time, and we're looking forward to, talking to him as well in the new role that he's serving in. So that's great context, and I'm not surprised that the Pacer Foundation in particular was instrumental. They've provided here locally some tremendous leadership and a commitment to our area's young people for some time. So thanks for sharing some of that.
Absolutely.
Delmar, do you have some parting kind of thoughts here before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you guys for coming on, sharing your work, sharing your vision. It's really been awesome. Just thank you for all that you are doing in your community and beyond.
Oh, Delmar, thank you very much. And Eric, thank you. But really, I'm inspired by your track, by you all's work in youth development years ago, and even by your current work in the school. And I just always say the NBA is inspirational in that we can watch the NBA finals, we can see this tremendous talent. And for us, the opportunity is to say, whether it's in the NBA on the court or whether it's in youth development, do you have an aspiration of excellence? And are you willing to put the work in to make sure that our young people are excellent? And so that's really our charge. And we see the NBA as having invested in us so that we can play that role of cultivating young people to actually get that capital of education so that they can actually exchange it in the marketplace for the economic capital that we want. That some people want the end without the beginning. We understand it takes work. And so we're trying to learn from the NBA and say, we too have to put the work in. And that's what we're trying to do. And we appreciate you all having us on.
Absolutely. In my closing, Dennis, it's interesting, in the very beginning, you were talking about young people, regardless of where they're from. And you referenced several cities around the United States and places around the world. And Delmar and I have had the good fortune to work with young people from all of those places. And you're absolutely right. And this is what makes youth development in particular so powerful, is that all young people need the same things in order to grow up and develop well. They just do, regardless of where they're from. And so I appreciate you kind of doing that from the outset and really kind of setting the tone for this opportunity to chat with you all.
Well, it's a pleasure.
You guys take care, and we look forward to catching up down the road.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Delmar.